What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the All Aussie Rules podcast. This is episode 14 of the season. We're doing a round 5 review today. We're going to have a look into all of the round 5 action. Weekend of upsets. 4 big upsets, really, against the odds victors. We had a couple teams get their first win of the year. We had a team get their first loss of the year. So we're going to delve fully into that. Before that, though, we're going to have a look at the latest news. We'll have a look at how my tips went. Spoiler alert, it was not great. We'll then have a look at each match one by one. And at the end, we'll have a look at the how the award leaders are going. So my predicted Brownlow and my MVP race. So before we do that, though, once again, plugging all of my socials. Find me on Insta and on Twitter/X. You can find these podcasts twice a week, every Monday and Wednesday, over on YouTube and Spotify. Don't forget to like the video, comment your opinions on anything football related, anything at all, and share with your friends if you enjoy. So first off, for this episode, we're going to have a look at the latest in news. Just recently announced, Harley Reid is the Rising Star nomination for this week. I don't think there was any major surprise there. He was definitely going to get it. Played a very good game. Did the number 1 draft pick. Other news, Charlie Cameron got a week for his tackle on a Thursday night. Zach Butters didn't get a week for his bump on Saturday night, which was controversial. Quite a lot of people believe he should have got a week, others don't. Just like everything with the tribunal these days, everybody has an opinion. And Matt Crouch from Adelaide, he got a week for his bump, which was very similar in a lot of ways to Zach Butters, but the match review officer did not see it that way. Quite a few concussions across the weekend, the major one being Sam Taylor on a Saturday afternoon. He took a big knock. So he'll be out for a week or two. Another big story was Libba. He had some delayed concussion signs, so he also will be missing for this coming weekend. Outside of that, I don't know if there's any other major news that we need to go through, so we will jump on in and have a look at how my tipping went for the weekend. And as I said, no real surprise. I got the 4 favourites that won, didn't get any of the upsets. So on Thursday night, I went Melbourne by 21 over Brisbane. It was basically the reverse of that. It is what it is. Brisbane with a better team. Bulldogs Essendon, I went Bulldogs by 27. Once again, basically the reverse of that. Essendon were the better team, got the job done. GWS only just held on in the end. They were up by about 5 goals and St Kilda came home hard, but we get that one right. Carlton lost to Adelaide in the last minute, conceded a goal, so got that one wrong. Gold Coast comfortably beat Hawthorn, pretty close to that margin, not exactly right, but close enough. Port Adelaide only just got up over Fremantle. That was another one that was an absolute ripper of a game. Went down to the wire, but we get that one. Geelong smoked North Melbourne, and then in what is one of the craziest results, but maybe also not due to injuries and such for Richmond, but West Coast got the win against Richmond, which I did not predict, so well done to them. So we went 4 of 8, we're 33 out of 46 for the year, so we're not doing too shabby. We keep battling away. Hopefully this weekend will be a little bit better, but having looked at some of the matches, I don't know if it will be an easy weekend. So yes, that is that. That's my tips. We didn't do great, but we'll keep fighting. We'll now have a look at all of the matches from round 5 in the AFL 2024 season. And on Thursday night, we went to the MCG for Melbourne hosting Brisbane. This obviously was Melbourne's 6th game of the year, Brisbane their 5th. Melbourne were going in favourites mainly because it was at the MCG, but Brisbane's results also hadn't been great this year. But they did bounce back into form in Gather round. And to be honest, they continued that on here. They were in control of the match pretty much from start to finish, in my opinion. They, as you can see, 4 goals to 2 in the first quarter, and then 3 goals to 0 in the second. That shows you that they were in control pretty much all the way. Melbourne only winning the last quarter just to make it look a little bit more respectable for them. To only lose by 22 probably should have been a bit bigger of a margin based on what we'd seen throughout the day, but 5 goals 5 in the last quarter made it a little bit more respectable. Melbourne only had the one multiple goal scorer in Bailey Fritsch. Meanwhile, Brisbane had Charlie Cameron kick 3. He also, as we mentioned before, he got reported and suspended for a week from that match. Joe Danaher kicked 2. Hipwood kicked 2. McCluggage also kicked 2 goals. Max Gawn had 51 hitouts. He was pretty massive for Melbourne. For Brisbane, Cam Rayner played his best game of the season and probably one of the best games I've almost ever seen him play, in my opinion. He was very good, especially in that first half. His contested football was good. He did well with clearances. He was involved heavily in pretty much all of their good play in that first half. So yeah, he was very good. Brisbane, they lacked forward efficiency again this weekend. I thought after last weekend they might have had that under control. They bounced back last week, but then this week they were back to what they'd been in the first 4 weeks. Luckily for them, it didn't matter. They got the job done. But they still definitely will be looking to tidy that up going forward. Because if they get that under control, they are going to be right back in the hunt. And I would probably still back them to finish top 4 this year based on what we've seen them doing all year, but especially the last couple of weeks. They're still dominating inside 50s. They just really need to get a little bit better at converting. Obviously, Charlie Cameron bouncing into form has helped that, but that will be their major thing going forward. Best players for Melbourne, I went Gawn. His ruck work was very good. Lever, Petrarca was a bit down on his usual games, or at least what he's been showing this year, but he was still solid. Chandler and Viney was good. For Brisbane, as we said, Rayner was probably his best game he's played. He was very good. Zorko was good. Charlie Cameron kicked 3. Harris Andrews did his usual very good work down back, and Josh Dunkley was good. Votes, I think Rayner gets the best on ground. I think he'll be noticed quite a lot by the umpires, especially in the first half. Zorko 2, and I think Gawn deserves 1. He was Melbourne's best player. So that's game 1 of the round. Comfortable win to the Brisbane Lions. Second game of the weekend was on Friday night at Marvel Stadium. We had Bulldogs hosting Essendon, sorry. Get that the right way around. And it was hard to fully be confident with either team going into this. They've both been, in my opinion, very inconsistent, and this game probably showed that from what I saw. Unless you're an Essendon supporter, it wasn't the easiest game to watch. There was a lot of fumbling, a lot of turnovers, a lot of fast break play that just didn't result in anything because of poor decisions and poor skill use. But I guess that's football. Bulldogs were hanging in there, especially at halftime. It was 8 points, third quarter that was sloppy from them, and then fourth quarter Bombers just kicked away. Kicked 5 goals in that last quarter when Bulldogs kicked 2 goals for, and that was game over. Comfortable 29-point win in the end to the Bombers. Hugo Hagan was very good up forward for the Dogs. He kicked 3. Norton and West kicked 2 each. And for the Bombers, Langford kicked 3, Jones 2, Stringer and Dersma also with a couple each. What to make of this game? I don't know. It's both teams are up and down. And it's hard to really pinpoint it. Essendon last week were atrocious against Port Adelaide. I think everyone would probably agree with that. This week they got the job done, which is all they can do, but they've still got a lot of room to improve, I think, before we consider them a genuine finals chance. But we'll see what happens with them. Bulldogs, they've been up for, like, the week before, they lost, but only just to Geelong, which was a pretty good result from them. But this week they weren't even in the same game as most AFL teams, I don't think, this week. Best players could go any way, any number of ways, especially on the Essendon side. I think all their players did some good stuff and all their players did a few bad things. But overall, for them, I went Redmond best, Dersma second. He had 20 touches and 2 goals. Caldwell Durham, a lot of people think was the best on ground. I have him, obviously, their 4th best, but could go either way. Nick Martin for the 5th best. For the Doggies, Jure was the best. Darcy played well. Libba was not as prolific as he was the previous week, but he was still very good. Liam Jones down back was good, and Ed Richards was important for them, I think, in keeping them alive in the game at points. Brownlow prediction, I went Dersma 3, Redmond 2, Jure 1, but to be honest, any one of 10 players could be getting votes in that game, in my opinion. So that was Friday night football. We move on to Saturday afternoon. The first game of Saturday was up in the nation's capital of Manuka Oval. GWS hosting St Kilda. GWS obviously going into this one as favourites. And for most of the day, they looked like they were comfortable winners. Things changed at the end with St Kilda kicking the last 6 goals of the match to pull it back from well over 30 points down to getting within the 1 point that they finished off losing by. Great fight back from them. They'll be a bit disappointed they couldn't start that a bit earlier. Meanwhile, on the other side of the fence, GWS will be happy they got away with it. They were the better team for 85% of the game and then just let themselves go there towards the end, but held on, and that's probably all that matters in the end from the game. I'm sure they'll be looking at what went wrong in that last 15-20 minutes. Jesse Hogan and Toby Green kicked 2 goals each for GWS. For St Kilda, Community, Higgins, Membry and Owens all got 2 goals. Best players, GWS, Lockie Whitfield was huge. He had a lot of it, was very good. Toby Green was good. Ash, Tom Green and Kelly were the top 5 for GWS. For St Kilda, Marshall and Hill were the 2 standouts. They were both outstanding all game long. I went Marshall over Brad Hill just because of disposal efficiency, I think. Hill turned it over a few times, but they were both huge. Bradley Hill got a lot of metres gained, had a lot of the ball, played very well. Jack Steele, Sinclair and Seb Ross. For my predicted Brownlow, look, I think those 3 are clearly the 3 that get the votes, and I would be very surprised to see anybody else poll the vote. The exact order of it could go any way. They were the 3 standouts. I went Marshall on top. I think he was outstanding. Lucky Whitfield second, and Bradley Hill sneaking in for one vote. What to take from that game? Obviously, GWS lost Sam Taylor in the first quarter to a heavy knock, which luckily he will be okay. It was a big hit though. He won't be playing this week, and yeah, we wish him all the best in a quick recovery because he is one of the best defenders in the league and he is very good to watch play football. So yeah, that probably affected GWS a little bit throughout the game, losing their best defender, but that's football. You've got to continue on, and they managed to get the win, so that's the main thing. St Kilda, another tight game for them, like most of their games have been this year. I think every game so far has been within 15 points, so they have been playing in close games and they're doing okay. They probably just want to get that win. In the end, they played well in the last 20 minutes or so, but overall throughout the game they didn't look like they were the better team on the day. They probably looked like they should lose by 3 to 6 goals, and in the end they snuck it a little bit tighter than that. We then headed down to Marvel Stadium for the evening game, and the undefeated Carlton team were taking on the team without a win in Adelaide. Granted, I don't think Carlton have been going as well as an undefeated team, and I don't think Adelaide had been going as well as a team that hadn't won a game, but that's how they came into this one, and Carlton led most of the way. They looked confident most of the way. It looked like while Adelaide was staying with them, it certainly didn't look like a game that Carlton were going to lose. It was back and forward a bit. I think there was probably about 8 or 9 lead changes for the day. With about 5 minutes to go, it looked like she was over when Charlie Curnow kicked his 4th. That put them up by like 15, 16 points, whatever it was. And then 3 quick goals for Adelaide late gave them the win. The final goal was kicked by Sam Berry. A little snap with a minute to go to put him in front. If this was in Adelaide, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that. But the fact that they went down to Marvel and got this win was massive. Kind of put a little bit of a lid back on for Carlton, I think, but I don't think it's any major concern for them. They'll bounce back. They've got a tough run over the next month, but I'd expect them to win probably 3 out of the 4 and still be comfortably in the top 3 or 4 teams on the ladder post that little run. Adelaide, it was good to see them do something. Their offense had been struggling all year. They've just struggled in a lot of ways most of the year. But they kicked accurately. They kicked 16 goals for, which was the only reason they won. But they made it to 100 points, which is huge for them based on what we've seen this year. So that was a good performance from them. Goal kickers, Charlie Curnow kicked 4, Mackay kicked 2, so their big boys once again got 6 between them. That's probably what you want from them. Mackay did drop a mark that he probably should have taken with about, a couple minutes to go, I think it was. That maybe would have been a pretty easy shot at goal, but that's football. For Adelaide, Walker kicked 4, first game this year that he's really shown much. Keys, Rankin kicked 3 each, and Rochelle got 2. So their big guns in the forward line did perform pretty well. Votes, Carlton, Sam Walsh, I think he was great. He was very good. Charlie Curnow kicked 4, he was good. Akers, Cripps and Newman. And then for Adelaide, Keys, he kicked 3 goals, he was very good. Rankin also kicked 3 goals, he was good. Hinge was great in the back line. Walker kicked his 4 goals. And Saligo, 2 weeks in a row, has been very good. Votes, Event Walsh, 3 votes. Keys and Rankin 2 and 1. So Adelaide get their season going. Maybe it's not the end of the year. Starting 0-4 is makes it very difficult for them to fight back, but it's a long season. There's still plenty of chances for them to fight back. They'll probably be ruining a couple of those early ones, though, the Gold Coast one especially, where they just didn't show up until late in the second half, and then they finally showed up and nearly got the win. But yeah, they'll maybe get their season going now. I think that over the next month they've probably got some winnable games, so you never know. If they can get 2 or 3 out of the next 5, then it's not all doom and gloom for them. They've got a bit of work to do, but that's got them heading in the right direction at least. We then went to Saturday night football, and we start up on the Gold Coast. This was the Suns versus the Hawks, and she was over very early, this one. It wasn't a great spectacle. Gold Coast kicked 4 goals to 1 in the first quarter. They're up by 22 at half time, which for Hawthorn actually is one of their better first halves they've had over the last month. But then third quarter, 5 goals to 2, and then the fourth quarter, 5 goals to 3 for a comfortable 53-point win to the Gold Coast Suns. Exactly what they needed to do. King kicked 4, Swallow 3, Eclosi 2, Reed, Walter 2. So good from them. Got plenty of goals on the board. 16, 13, 109. Hawthorn, McGuinness was the only multiple goal scorer. He kicked 3. And what to say about this game? Noah Anderson, has best on ground. He had 36 touches and a goal. He was huge all around the ground. Ben King, I think, was very good. Flanders, he had 34 touches. He was good. Matt Rao and Mac Andrew was good as well. Also worth noting, Will Graham for Gold Coast had 14 tackles, which is quite an impressive number. And then Hawthorn, McGuinness, he kicked 3 goals. I'm going to give him their best player. I don't think anyone was outstanding for Hawthorn. But yeah, Carl Amon was also okay. Sicily was okay. Meek and then D'Ambrosio filling in the final spots. But as I said, Gold Coast were the better team. We're a class ahead of them all day and probably had the best 10 players on the ground just about, I reckon. Anderson 3 votes, Flanders 2 and Matt Rao 1. Yeah, not much to say about this game. Hawthorn weren't in it at any point really, and Gold Coast played well. They looked good. So their last couple of weeks have been quite good. They just went down to GWS last week, and then to bounce back with a comfortable victory against Hawthorn this week. So they're going all right, and maybe they'll be pushing towards the lower reaches of the bottom 8. Maybe this is the year they finally make the finals. The other game on Saturday night was another tight contest, and one that we nearly saw another upset, but Port Adelaide just hold on. So they won 9-12, 66 to 9-9, 63, and with a couple minutes to go, Freo were a goal and a half clear. So they'll be ruling their 2 weeks in Adelaide with a 10-point loss to Carlton, followed by a 3-point loss to Port Adelaide. Their season could be absolutely flying if they got both of them. Even if they got one of them, it would have been huge for them. But if they had got both, they'd be still undefeated, and they would be going into the derby this week full of confidence and very happy with where they are. This game was very tight all day though. The biggest margin was Port Adelaide by about 12 or 13 points. Fremantle led multiple times throughout the day, but never by more than 10. Horn Francis kicked the winning goal at the 27-minute mark of the final quarter. Charlie Dixon kicked the one before that. So Port Adelaide kicked the last two to get the win. It was a bit of a topsy-turvy game, but Port Adelaide will be happy that they just got the win. If they had have lost second game in 3 weeks at Adelaide Oval, there'd be questions about where their season's at. But as it stands, they get the win and they continue on to the next week. As we discussed earlier, Butters did not get suspended for his bump, so he gets to stay in Brownlow contention and will be available to play in what is a big game for them this weekend in Melbourne against Collingwood. They will want to be winning that one based on what they have only just been winning. Yes, they smacked Essendon over in Adelaide, but this is a more important game for them, I think, to show really where they're at. Best players here, Dan Houston, I think, was massive for Port Adelaide. Sack Butters was good. Rose was not as good as last week, but he was still good. Ollie Wines and Kane Farrell. And then for Fremantle, Tracy, who kicked 3, was their best. Ryan was huge. He played very well. Alex Pearce was good down back. Sarong and Brayshaw, the top 5. And then for the Brownlow prediction, I went Dan Houston, Tracy, and then Sack Butters. So, as I said, Port Adelaide probably not going as well as maybe we thought. Fremantle, I think, are definitely going as well as we thought, or at least I thought. I think they're showing some good signs. I would like to see them scoring a little bit more. This is like 3 weeks in a row that they've been around the 60 to 70 mark. I think they've actually got 63 now 2 weeks in a row. 9-9-63, so they've got a bit to work on, mainly offensively, but their defence is huge. And if they had got one of those 2 games at Adelaide Oval in the last 2 weeks, they'd be very confident. But you know that they're going to get, or they have all their 11 games at Optus Stadium. You'd be expecting them to win at least 8, probably 10 or 11 of those, and then they only need to sneak a couple more wins, and they've got enough for finals. And so I think we'll be seeing Fremantle make the top 8 this year. How deep they go will depend on how many times they lose in these tight ones, but that's certainly progressing towards finals this year, I believe. We then went to the first game on Sunday. This was not expected to be much of a selling point of the game, but Geelong hosting North Melbourne. Geelong undefeated, and they stayed undefeated. North Melbourne haven't got a win. They stayed that way. They will get a chance this weekend though, so check that out. I believe they play Hawthorn this week. Not Hawthorn. Yes, Hawthorn? Yes. Yeah, they play Hawthorn this week, so there'll be a chance for both of those 2 teams to get their first win. Who wins that? Who knows? So yeah, Geelong won this by 75. They were in control from the first quarter. Second quarter was huge, kicking 7 goals to 1. They cruised to a comfortable win, 21 goals. You're not going to lose too many games kicking 21 goals. Jeremy Cameron kicked 6, Close kicked 4, Neil 3, Stengel, Holmes kicked 2 each. For North Melbourne, Ford kicked 3, Drury and Alaki kicked 2 each. Best players, Cameron kicked 6 goals, he had 20 touches, he was huge all around the ground. Holmes had plenty of it and kicked 2. Bowie's was good. Myers was very good. His delivery inside 50 is AFL elite. Tom Stewart, as always, just very solid down back, does what he needs to do. For North Melbourne, Sheasel, yes, he gets a lot of uncontested ball, but he was very good in my opinion. He had 38 touches and a goal, I think. Tom Powell continued his strong season. He's showing some very good signs. Ford, Drury and Nguyen. might round out my top 5 for North Melbourne. Brownlow votes. I can't go past Jeremy Cameron. He kicked 6 goals. He had 20 touches. His last 2 weeks have been incredible. He's getting a lot of the football. He's kicking goals. And in my opinion, his last 2 weeks shows why he is the best tall forward in the game. He is a very good player. Sheasel, he just had too much of it not to get votes, I think. And, I mean, he was good with the ball. Like, he used it well. And he snuck forward for a goal. And Holmes, I think, also was very good in this one. Where's that sit both teams? Geelong, they're cruising, to be honest. I have been saying it the last couple of weeks. It's hard to see them not being a top 14 this year. They're just getting the job done. They're getting what they need to do done. Going into this one, I said I want to see them win it by 50 plus. I said 100 as well, which obviously they would have rather win by 100, but as has been the case with North Melbourne this season, they kick straight. So they kicked 10-4, which made the result look slightly better. I mean, 21-13 is pretty accurate too from Geelong, but 34 scoring shots to 14 is quite a difference. And like inside 50s were 16 apart, 61 to Geelong and 45 to North Melbourne. Is just a sign of how much difference there was in the two teams. North Melbourne are looking like the wooden spoon team at the moment, I think. Up until this week, West Coast were pretty similar, although West Coast showed good signs last week and then they backed it up this weekend. So I think North Melbourne are probably at the moment looking like the worst team in the league. They certainly need to find something. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very tough, long season to be a fan of the Kangaroos. So we have one game left of the round, and this was a doozy. West Coast hosting Richmond over at Optus Stadium, and I don't know what to say about it, really. Richmond came out of the blocks absolutely flying and was like, yep, this is what we expected. They kicked the first 4 goals of the match and looked like they were cruising when Liam Baker kicked his first. After that, though, Richmond went home. West Coast kicked 8 goals in the second quarter, which is incredible for them, for any team, but for West Coast to kick 8 goals in a quarter, I didn't think we'd see that. And then in the second half, they continued their dominance. They started kicking poorly in front of goal, but it didn't matter. They kicked 11-2 in the first half, and then second half, 5 goals 11. So if they had kicked a bit straighter in the second half, they could have won by even more. But they got the job done. Cruised through. Waterman was huge. He kicked 6 goals. He was just a really good target forward and just kept presenting and getting it done. Cripps kicked a couple. Perticelli kicked 2. He kicked a very good one. One of the nominations for goals of the round. Elliot Yeo kicked 2. Meanwhile, for Richmond, LaFou, he's played decent from what I've seen. I'm excited by what he could be. He kicked 3, and Showbolton kicked 3 as well, including 2 of those first 3 or 4 goals for Richmond. Best players, Waterman, Elliot Yeo, jeez, I can almost speak. Kelly, Reid was exceptional. He finally showed what he's capable of for more than just a few minutes. Like, he's a burst player. He's never going to be the player that has 35 touches and racks them up all around the ground. Well, maybe he will be, but he's a burst player. He's the Dusty Martin clone, as people call him, and he played very well. McGovern, he was also good. For Richmond, Bolton, Baker, Vlosten, Lafou and Nankervis. And maybe one of the marks of the year was on a display with Vlosten taking an absolute ripper. My votes, 3 will go to either Waterman or Yo. I think Waterman I went with. He kicked 6 goals. He was very good. But Elliot Yo was also very, very good. Kelly, I think, will sneak 1. Harley Reid could sneak into the votes here. I just think he was their 4th best player. He was very good, but I had him as the 4th best for his Rising Star nomination performance. Where does that sit, these two teams? Well, the Eagles, the doom and gloom is over. They won. Their Waffle team also performed very well and had some good AFL listed players performing reasonably well. Domsheed was good. So I think there's a little bit of hope in Western Australia this week for the Eagles. Whether they'll be able to continue that is probably unlikely. They have a tough game in the derby this weekend against Fremantle. I wouldn't expect them to be winning that one, but they showed some positive signs. It was very exciting football that they showed all throughout the game. Richmond, obviously, they lost Taranto during the week for a training injury, so that hurt them, but I just don't know what to make of them, to be honest. They show some good signs, like they beat Sydney only a couple of weeks ago, but since then they do performances like this where they lose by 39 points to West Coast Eagles. So I don't know what to make of where they're sitting at the moment, but it's not great signs for the Tigers at the moment. So that is all 8 matches from round 5. Week of upsets and nearly a couple more because, I mean, GWS only won by a point and Port Adelaide only won by 3. So a kick either way there, and all of a sudden it would have been 6 out of 8 were upsets. But nonetheless, we got 4. So we'll now have a quick look at how my predicted Brownlow is looking, and to be honest, there's not too many major changes to this from previous week. Obviously, Isaac Heaney had the bye this week, so he stays on 11, but he's still number 1. Petrarca, he goes into a bye this week, so he'll be staying on 10. He didn't poll any votes this week. Hewitt for Carlton, Sarong and Kelly all on 7. They've all had really good starts to the year. Miller, Green, Gawn, he was good. Rose, Butters, Steele, Errol Goulden and Bontempelli all on 6. So big list of players there now on 6. And then on 5 I have Ryan, Rao, Anderson and Marshall. So Melbourne and Richmond have the bye this week, so Petrarca and Gawn won't be polling. There's been no Richmond players that would be likely to be in the Brownlow hunt at this point, or probably at any point of this season. But yeah, so that's where I have it sitting after 5 rounds. Heaney comes back in this week, and if he has another good performance where he polls 2 or 3, he could be hypothetically 2 games clear on top, which would be insane after 6 rounds of football. In the MVP voting, which is my system of votes, we've gone through it a couple times, but just winning team, top 5 players get 10, 8, 6, 4 and 2 votes, and the losing team gets 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for the best 5 players on each team. Petrarca is leading. He's jumped to the top, but as I just said, he will be having the bye this week and Heaney will be playing, so expect that Heaney will probably jump back into top spot. Max Gawn has moved into third. He's been very good this season as well, but like Petrarca, obviously having the bye this week, we'll see a lot of people moving up towards those two players. For Port Adelaide duo next with Rose and Butters. Sarong, who started the season very well, has kind of slowed down a little bit, but he's still polling. And Noah Anderson on 29. Matt Rowe's been very good. He's on 27. Hewitt 26 with Merritt. Jeremy Cameron, as I discussed before, he's in some fine form the last couple of weeks. Tom Green, Errol Gordon all on 26. On 25 is Jack Steele. Harry Mackay has been very good. Slacked. That's not the right word. Dropped off a little bit this week, but he's still on 24, as is Tom Stewart, who's been good. Kelly and Yo for West Coast to be on 24 is a very good effort from him. And Bontempelli is also on 24. So yeah, that's how I have it sitting after round 5. We'll continue that rolling through. Maybe next week we'll do a team by team analysis of how everyone's going. And I might also look at bringing out my All-Australian team of the year so far next week. So going forward, we've got another episode on Wednesday, which will be our round 6 preview, having a look at every single match for round 6. It'll be the last week where we only have 8 games for a month or so until the next lot of buys start happening. Next week we're going to be doing a bonus episode, just due to the fact that it's Anzac Day football, and it's a bit of a weird week based on when games are, because we've got Wednesday night football will be Richmond, Melbourne, and then Thursday we've got obviously the Essendon Collingwood Anzac Day game and GWS Brisbane Anzac Day game. So I'll bring out an episode Wednesday night, hopefully in time for the football to start, which will have a look at those 3 games, and then we'll have another episode on the Friday, either Thursday night or Friday morning, that we'll have a look at the remaining games on that weekend. So yeah, we'll have a look at probably how different players and different teams are travelling, in my opinion, for the season so far through 6 rounds. So yeah, 1 more episode this week, and then 3 episodes next week, and then we'll probably from then on go back to the 2 a week. Yeah, other than that, that's all I've got to say this week in football. Let me know what you think of my thoughts. Yeah, if you think I'm being an idiot with putting someone on top, let me know. If you think I'm doing good, maybe also let me know. But yeah, hopefully your tipping did better than mine. Maybe you picked one of the upsets. Hopefully you didn't do worse than me. But this week might be better. We've got Thursday night footy in St Kilda Bulldogs, which that could be a tough one to pick. St Kilda probably are the better team at the moment. Adelaide Essendon will be a massive game on Friday night over at Adelaide Oval. Essendon, last time they played Adelaide Oval 2 weeks ago, was atrocious, and obviously Adelaide bounced back into form, so that'll be a big game. Saturday, Collingwood Port Adelaide's a big game, as is Carlton GWS, as is Brisbane Geelong. So that Saturday triple header right there might be worth just sitting on the couch and watching 10 hours straight of football, because I think those 3 games will be all very, very good games. Also, West Coast Fremantle play on Saturday night at in the derby, so I mean, derbies are always exciting to watch. There's always a bit of heat in the games. Sunday, Sydney versus Gold Coast potentially has the writing on the wall to be a good game. And then Sunday, we've got the battle of the bottom teams, North Melbourne versus Hawthorn. See who can get their first win and who will still be without a win. So that's what's coming up this weekend. A good weekend of football. Thanks for listening. Remember, share with your friends if you enjoy what you're hearing, and even if you think I'm talking absolute crap, maybe make fun of me to your friends. But thanks for tuning in. I'll be back on Wednesday for the round 6 preview. Thanks again. Catch us on the next one.